Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi, Donna.
Hi. So Sylvia, just let us know when you're ready to go.
We are ready to go.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So we have our Committee of Adjustment and Consent Granting Authority meeting, and this is the Committee of Adjustment meeting of Tuesday, April 20th, and we're meeting here in a Zoom virtual meeting. We have a determination of quorum. So I see one of my committee members. Where is the other one? Let me look. Oh, we've got quite a few people on here tonight. Good. Hi, Corey, Donald. Good. Okay, so what I'd like to do, everybody can hear me, is I'd like to ask you to please put your speakers on mute, except for the committee members at this point. So essentially, we will call upon you if we wish to hear from you. Otherwise, at this point, we would like you to mute your speaker so that we can begin our meeting and have a fulsome discussion. So number one is determination of quorum, which we've done. Updates, Sylvia?
There are no updates at this time.
Okay, so then I want to call this meeting to order. I have a motion before me, and I'm going to need a mover and a seconder. So I see Dawn is going to move it.
Corey seconds.
Okay, so we have then the Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux Lookout Committee of Adjustment, moved by Don Fenlon, seconded by Corey Lego, that the Committee of Adjustment meeting of April 20th, 2021 be declared open and called to order at 5:05 p.m. All those in favor?
Yes.
yep,
Perfect, and that's carried. All right. So we have before us, gentlemen, an agenda. You've had a chance to take a look at that agenda. Is there any revisions or corrections or additions that need to be made before we approve those?
I have none.
Okay. So then I have a motion on the floor. I need a mover and seconder.
Corey moves.
Donald moves second.
Thank you, gentlemen. So we have before the Committee of Adjustment, moved by Corey Lego and seconded by Donald Fenlon, that the Committee of Adjustment approve the agenda as submitted for the Committee of Adjustment meeting of dated April 20th, 2021. All those in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. And that is carried. Okay. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Anything, gentlemen?
I have none, no.
I have none.
And neither do I. So we're good to go. Okay. Moving on then, under 5 of the agenda, we have minutes. We have our minutes from our last committee meeting of March 30th. And we've had a chance to take a look at them. Is there any comments, questions, concerns, revisions, omissions?
No, I have none, no.
I have none as well.
Okay. Okay, I only have one. It's a typo, I believe. And Kristen, it's on page 8 under comments from the applicant. The applicant said that he and D, the planning staff, I think the D is just a typo. So if you could maybe amend that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We will do so.
Otherwise, they're in great shape. So I need to have a mover and a seconder for a motion on the floor to adopt those.
I'll move.
Corey seconds.
Okay, so we have then before the Committee of Adjustment, moved by Donald Fenlon, and seconded by Corey Lego, that the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment meeting of March 30th, 2021 be adopted as amended, corrected. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
And that, thank you, that is carried. Just give me a minute to sign these. 20th. Okay. Do we have any delegations? Kristen, Sylvia?
We do not have any delegations this evening, Madam Chair.
So I'd like to announce that this is a public hearing and we're here to hear comments on a minor variance application. The committee will hear these comments and evaluate all written submissions. The committee makes the final decision. There is a 20-day appeal period from the date after that decision. Any person who objects to the proposed minor variances may do so in writing to the Secretary Treasurer of the committee and must attach the fee required for the appeal. This appeal will be forwarded to the local planning appeal tribunal for their review. Okay, so then we're on to the actual minor variance application, M05-2021, and we've received this from Can Connect Developments, Inc. on behalf of 276-0516 Ontario Incorporated for the subject lands known as 9 Fifth Avenue, and they are seeking relief this evening from a minimum required parking spaces for the restaurant and retail uses in the zoning bylaw, and relief, I believe, is also being sought for minimum required queuing spaces for the restaurant with the drive-through facility. Who will be presenting our report this evening? Is that you, Kristen, or is our, I think I saw, who's doing it?
I'm here, Madam Chair. It's Jamie Robinson.
There you
I
go.
don't know if Kirsten's going to read the opening or if she's just turning it over to me. So, but whatever works.
I can read the overview, Jamie, or you can go ahead. Doesn't matter to me.
Why don't you read the overview? It's good practice for you, and then I'll chime in where necessary. Why don't we do it that way?
Sounds good. If I miss anything, let me know. Okay, so as mentioned, this is application M05-2021, an application for minor variance for 9 Fifth Avenue, and it has been submitted by Can Connect Developments, Inc. on behalf of 276-0516 Ontario, Inc. for the subject lands at 9 Fifth Avenue. The intent of the application is to permit a reduction in the number of parking spaces and drive-through queuing spaces to allow for the development of a commercial restaurant and commercial retail units on the subject property. This is to be phase 1 of the anticipated development of the lot. The municipal zoning bylaw requires that restaurants with drive-through facilities have a minimum of 11 queuing spaces. The applicant has included 9 queuing spaces in the proposed site plan, meaning the variance is to accommodate a reduction in queuing spaces of 2. The municipal zoning bylaw also requires a minimum number of parking spaces for different uses. Under the zoning bylaw, a restaurant of the proposed size requires 23 parking spaces, while the commercial retail building of the proposed size requires 9 parking spaces. The applicant has made some changes to the initial site plan in response to some of the comments that have been provided. The updated site plan was included in the packages provided to the committee, and the changes are as follows. The drive aisle for the development has been widened to 9.5 meters from 7.5 meters, and the gross floor area of the commercial retail building has been reduced by approximately 36 square meters, meaning that 9 parking spaces are now required for that building. As such, the variance requested by this application in terms of parking spaces is a reduction to 26 total parking spaces from the required 32. So that's a difference of 6 spaces. Comments have been received about this application. There have been 4 in total. 1 was from the Public Works Manager, Andrew Jewell, and then 3 others have been received from members of the public. Staff have reviewed the 4 tests of a minor variance in considering this application. Staff have found that the application is in keeping with the intent of the official plan, as the proposed uses are permitted uses in the mixed use designation, and that the development is appropriate intensification in the Sioux Lookout urban area while being an efficient use of land. The variance is also in keeping with the intent of the zoning bylaw, as the location of the subject property allows for active transportation to and from the site by customers, and the peak usage periods of the retail uses and restaurant uses vary, which should offset the parking demands on the site. The variance does provide for the desirable development of the land, as it is in the public interest to use land efficiently in the Sioux Lookout urban area. The variance is finally considered minor in the context of the geographic location in the Sioux Lookout urban area. Based on the review of the application, staff is of the opinion that the 4 tests of a minor variance have been met.
Thank you, Kristen.
It's maybe,
Okay, so
Madam
now
Chair,
just
if I can, sorry, if I may just add one thing
No.
to what she said, Madam Chair, just from a big picture perspective, the real, I think, crux of the land use planning considerations here, as Kirsten alluded to, was that in urban areas, efficient use of land is important, and intensification is important to make efficient use of land within those urban areas and serviced areas. But it's important that that not occur at the expense of technical considerations, such as the importance of parking and site access and those sorts of considerations. So in that light, as staff, we've taken a thorough review of the application and the comments, and we think that the intent of the zoning bylaw provisions related to the parking requirements and the queuing spaces for the proposed use have been appropriately considered, and the intent of the bylaw is met, and that the variances are minor in that regard. So that's, I just wanted to make it very clear that we did, we believe, take a very balanced review based on the key considerations for development within a settlement area, as well as the technical considerations. So thank you for that.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Jamie, and thank you, Kristen, both of you, for adding your, and I think we, starting here just with my committee members then maybe, is I think that we can appreciate that we do want an efficient use of land, and it is a mixed use zone. One of the comments I'd like to maybe just share with our planning team, with staff, is that well, the site plan that you guys have provided us is very good. It's very detailed. It's very small. And I'm not getting any younger. And so I actually had to, I don't wear reading glasses, but I borrowed my husband's reading glasses because I had some difficulty reading this site plan to see exactly, you know, the egress and the parking. And so I probably will have some questions that might be somewhat either redundant or silly, based on I should be able to see it, but I can't. So just asking for a little bit of leniency, if you will, if I do ask a kind of a dumb question. Okay. So one of the questions that I have is does this site plan show then the difference, the 7.5 meter to 9.5 meter entrance? I guess that's one of my first questions that I would have, and before I turn it over to my colleagues. The other question that I have is the retail space. I would like to know, I understand now it's still 3 retail spaces, which is fine. What are those retail spaces? And how do we know that those spaces are not going to be a duplication, a restaurant, in other words, and therefore a different use, or a use that maybe is not using parking or using the egress and the queuing at the same time? Like, those are questions that I have. We don't know what those retail spaces are. If a restaurant goes into one of those spaces, we now have created quite a difficult situation, and the overflow goes to the street. So it's just something, because I mean, and maybe it's a huge site. I was there today, but maybe it's a bit more congested than it needs to be. And so those were a couple of things that sort of came at me. Before we turn it back to our staff, I'd like to ask Corey and Dawn as well to please jump in here, and then we'll also take into consideration some of the comments that we received from the public. Corey?
Well, I went out this afternoon to look at the property. I've seen the property multiple times, but I was just wondering, they have, for future development on the east end, they have 9 parking spaces. I'm just wondering if that can be shifted over to the property line. I know there's a big rock outcrop there, but I'm wondering if we can sort of shift everything over and make the floor plan of the actual development a bit wider or longer, and then be able to maybe slot in a couple more parking spots in it.
Oh, I see. Where
So
the
you shift-
where
you shift-
instead of yeah,
So
I
you-
get
yeah,
you.
sh-
I get
you
you.
shift the 9 parking spots, you shift over what they want to develop. I guess they're putting some housing in there. You shift over the 28 parking spot, and then you elongate the
Right.
floor plan.
And then the overflow then, what I'm hearing you say, Corey, is the overflow from the parking of the first use would be on the second use, not on the neighbor.
Yeah.
I get you.
And
Yeah,
whether
that's a good-
a couple
that's a
more
good point.
parking spots can be added in that development area.
But I mean, that was a concern that came from the owner of Tim Hortons, is he had shared with us, there's a letter that was in my package, and we can ask Kristen to provide more detail on those comments that we did receive. But one of them was his concern that there wouldn't be adequate parking and people would be parking and walking over from his parking lot area. What you're suggesting, Corey, is that would not happen because the overflow would go to this owner's parking that he's using for his mixed use development.
Yep.
Right on.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'm not too
So
sure
let's-
what that 28 parking spots were for, but I would think some people would use that to park there anyway and walk over.
Right. So that could be maybe developed earlier.
Yeah.
Is there anything else, Corey? That's a
And I was
that's a good comment.
And I was just wondering, I see at the north end of that 28 parking lot, I was just wondering if you could add 2 more spots to the north end of that, because it seems that there's like one little spot at the top. I don't know if that's for snow removal or.
I think
It's just a
if I
suggestion.
read it, yeah, if I read it correctly, I think it's loading. I think it says loading on it.
I know this would be right in that 28. I don't, yeah,
Oh, I'm not,
like you said,
okay, I'm not
it's
sure.
hard to read, so.
Okay.
But it was just a thought. I just don't know if you can move everything over or not because of that rock
And
outcrop.
they are, yeah, our understanding is there is a site plan control being undertaken on the site itself, which maybe some of these issues can be dealt with at that point with staff from our planning department. But certainly, I mean, if these are jumping out to us, they're going to be jumping out, I think, to them as well. Dawn?
My concern is traffic bothering on the streets and bothering the other business beside them. And the seating capacity of the restaurant, does anybody know what that is?
That's a good question as well. And one
Yeah.
we'll turn over to our staff to see if they have, I know that this is, I think parking spaces, and I'm not 100% sure, and they can answer this, is based on square footage, but there might also be something to do with the actual occupancy. We can ask them, certainly. Was there anything else that jumped out at you? Because that was one of the things that, again, and we'll have maybe Kristen share with us some of the comments we received from the public, but there's some concerns with that intersection at Wellington and Fifth Avenue. It's a very busy intersection. While I was at the site today, one of the neighbors saw me and came out and had a chat from a distance about concerns that somebody is going to get hurt at that intersection because it's a bit chaotic, and that maybe it's time to look at it to see what can be done that would make it safer. So that's sort of where her concerns were coming from. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Don.
I think if my memory is correct, that the cabling and all that for street lighting at that intersection was supposed to have been put in when the intersection was done. So staff can look at that over a period of time, see what the flow of traffic is going to be like. If that street lighting stuff is there, right?
Yeah, I believe it was put in there, Don.
Yeah.
Just in case, because it was the potential of it being developed even more, like as we're seeing now. That we thought ahead at the time, thinking, well, we should put that infrastructure in just in case at some time we need to add lights there.
Yeah, because that's going to be
Yeah.
another. Most of the traffic,
I know.
lunchtime and coffee times and stuff like that gets pretty heavy on Wellington Street there.
Yeah,
Okay.
that individual shared with me that queue from Tim Hortons actually comes right out onto the avenue.
Yes.
And perhaps that is COVID related. I don't know. It could be that people don't want to get out of their vehicles, and I can appreciate that during these unprecedented times. But regardless, it's still happening. And so what's happening is many of the neighbors now are going a block out of their way in order to avoid that area.
Yeah.
And right.
Yeah, I think because of the COVID deal that they don't want to be waiting in line out of their vehicles getting into Tim Hortons, because they're only allowing a certain amount of people in there right now. From what I
Yeah.
And at some points, the whole restaurant part was closed. Like no people were allowed in there. And people want their Timmy's coffee, right? So that
Okay.
to me, that's what the issue is we're dealing with restrictions on a business where they can't be fully functional, and people like their product, and
Right.
the lineups are happening
And-
onto Fifth Avenue.
Okay. Is there anything else, gentlemen, before we turn it back to staff to respond to some of the concerns and questions that we have, and then ask them as well to share some of the other comments that we received from the public?
No, I one question, not question, but the fine print on the drawing is I got glasses and bifocals and they're all brand new, but I still can't read. So, okay.
The only other thing, I was reading some of Andrew's concerns. At this point, I can't make a judgment on if the drive-through will get backlogged, because I don't know what restaurant's going there. So I guess one of his concerns was, well, if someone puts in a big order, the drive-through can get backlogged and going back out into where everyone's parking. But without knowing what's going there, it's hard to make a judgment whether that would be factual or not. I don't know what kind of fast food or restaurant plans on going there. So that was just another thought that I had.
Okay, so I think it's in the main restaurant is Dairy Queen, but
Okay.
the other retail spaces we do not know, and that's a concern for me. And maybe I'm not sure if we deal with it here or if site plan control deals with it, but if a similar use is going into one of those retail spaces, we've created difficulties.
Well, I guess from what we've been given, we've been told that there's just one restaurant going there
Right, and 3 retail spaces.
and 3
But
retail
retail
spaces.
can be retail can be anything, right? It can be a restaurant potentially. So then the
Right.
whole argument, or the whole and our staff has shared with us that they're not concerned because they think that there will be varying times of use by the mixed uses.
Mm-hmm.
But if one of those retail spaces is a similar use, another restaurant, in other words, then that argument or that justification goes out the window.
Yes.
But you're right, Corey, we don't know what those other spaces are. The only thing that we do know at this point is it's a Dairy Queen restaurant. And we don't know the number of seats, what type of restaurant it is, if it's more focused on the drive-through or if it's focused on dine-in. And then the other question that comes, and that's what Dawn had brought up, the other question that comes is, what is the other retail spaces? So before we get any further, let's turn it back to staff, and whoever can maybe try to provide some answers. And then if not, perhaps the applicant can help us out here. So Kristen or Jamie, I'm not sure who would want to take the lead on this.
You want me to take these, Kirsten? Yeah, okay, all right, perfect. So there's a bunch of questions there. I'll try to walk my way. I took some notes here. I'll try my best to work my way through them, but if I miss any, make sure you speak up and let me know. So the first off, I think the question was related to, or the potential concern was related to a second restaurant use appearing in that commercial plaza, and would that put us in a non-complying situation? And the answer to that is that what's being proposed here is another retail use. If a restaurant was proposed in the future, they'd have to come back and seek a further Planning Act approval to recognize reduced parking space for that use, because even though a restaurant's a permitted use, it has to meet the zoning standards for parking. So any use that's proposed in this plaza that isn't specifically retail or doesn't meet that retail definition could have an additional parking requirement, or it could have less of a parking requirement, but that use would have to be evaluated at that time in accordance with the parking standards. And the comfort level for the municipality is that the site is subject to site plan control. So if a new use is proposed, in the site plan agreement, it'll be written in that they have to demonstrate compliance with the parking requirements of the bylaw. And the bylaw requires that anyways without site plan control. So it's a bit of a belt and suspenders approach to that. So I don't believe there's a concern with respect to a restaurant use occurring in that retail space without further review from the municipality. So I believe that concern's addressed. Another concern I believe related to, I guess we'll maybe just deal with this first off. The question was related to what is that use, the restaurant use, and it's a Dairy Queen use that's proposed there. So that's what the drive-through facility is related to, and that's what the restaurant facility is related to. There's nothing in the application form that identifies the specific number of seats for the restaurant. I don't know if Kirsten or the owner can speak to that when I've finished, but there might be some information related to that. But the parking requirements in the bylaw relate to the size requirements. The question related to the real question before this committee isn't about the volume of traffic entering and exiting this property. It's about do the proposed variances, are they appropriate given the use and given the unique set of circumstances associated with this proposal. Whether the restaurant has sufficient parking or has the parking that's proposed, I don't think that necessarily changes the traffic volume that's entering and exiting the restaurant specifically. And those were some of the off-site comments that were provided related to the intersection and whatnot. And the other point to that is that those are site plan matters, and those are issues that will be dealt with at the site plan stage by the municipality. Well, the real question today is really specific to the variance question itself and those two variances. And is the parking reduction appropriate for this use? And the consideration that staff's provided on that is there's some synergies between the uses, that the Dairy Queen might not be full when the retail stores are operating at capacity, whereas the retail stores might not be operating at capacity when the Dairy Queen is busy. So there's a bit of a trade-off with respect to parking spaces, and that's sometimes why we see a reduced parking requirement where you have mixed uses or multiple uses on a site. Because the second reason that staff provided was that this is in the town site, and there's an opportunity to walk or cycle or use a taxi, for example, to get to the site. which might not have the same demand on parking as another commercial use or another restaurant located elsewhere in the community. And those are some of the reasons for the reduced parking standard. The site plan matters that the two councilors actually have raised related to shifting the site plan features around or parking areas on the abutting site to provide additional parking on this site. That's certainly something that can be looked at through this site plan process. And if we're able to achieve an additional queuing space or additional parking spaces as a result, it would lessen the impact of the proposed variances. But I don't think it's necessary to get into the specific weeds tonight about redesigning the site. That in staff's opinion, we think there's sufficient justification to support the variances as they've been applied to and presented. But those are certainly good comments that we've heard and we'll definitely take into consideration in evaluating the appropriateness of the application. There have been some other comments related to the Tim Hortons use on the adjacent property and queuing issues associated with that use. And I think there's been those are valid concerns, and they certainly speak to the time that we're in today, no doubt about it, that hopefully we're working our way out of that in the not too distant future. But again, those are off-site considerations that I think can be considered through the site plan process and the impact of this site on those considerations, but they're not really germane to the two variances that are being considered on this specific site. I don't know if I've missed any questions. I probably have there, but if there's anything that I have, then please feel free if there's any follow-up on those items. Thank you, Madam Chair. Oh, and you're on mute.
Oh, I see that. Thank you. Thank you, Jamie. Kristen, did you have anything that you wanted to add to those comments or the questions that we had?
Oh, I did not, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay. I'm not sure if we actually covered all of the comments that we received from general public or from, I believe we've covered the comments we received from Andrew Jewell, and much of that has been addressed, but I don't want a case where we're not listening to some of the other concerns or comments that were submitted. So could you quickly go over those with us?
Yes, certainly. So I'll skip Andrew's as mentioned, because I think, like you said, Madam Chair, we've talked about that one a lot. So I'll leave that one for now. We can always come back to it if there are further questions. So as mentioned, we did have a comment come in from William Kent, who is the owner of the adjacent Tim Hortons. And he says, I'm the owner of the Tim Hortons located just to the west of the potential development property. In reviewing the site plan, we are concerned about the drive-through and queuing and the overall number of parking spaces available for this entire retail site. The parking lot seems very small for 3 retail outlets and a Dairy Queen. The overflow parking would end up on our lot. He also says the drive-through queuing lane isn't long enough. Once the queue hits 9 cars, it will back into the parking lot, restricting traffic flow and parking on the whole site. The cars will end up parking on our property and walking over. We support the development and overall community wellness of Sioux Lookout. We feel that we should bring this issue to your attention as we believe it will impact our current business. We also received a comment from Robert Weaver, who is a property owner in the area. And he says, while I have no objection to new businesses wishing to establish in our community of Sioux Lookout, it appears that traffic concerns must be addressed prior to any bylaw amendments regarding parking spaces. The number of parking spaces does not dictate the amount of traffic on 5th Avenue. At the present time, there are occasions where traffic causes blockage to the entrance of 5th Avenue from Wellington Street. Also, the backed up vehicles on 5th Avenue restrict safe access to our homes. Not only is the amount of traffic a public inconvenience, but it is a safety hazard impeding emergency vehicles. The vehicular traffic will certainly increase without another approach to these businesses. It would be beneficial to know if the municipality has a solution to the traffic issue. And then the third comment received is from Tamara Lubeck, and she says, I'm a resident at 78 Lake Street, Sioux Lookout. I turn left from Fifth Avenue onto Wellington Street daily. I have no opinion either way with regard to whether the Dairy Queen should be built. All I ask is that if it is, that the town implements a traffic light at that intersection. With the increased amount of traffic and the very, very poor sight lines for left-hand turning, it is already a dangerous intersection in poor lighting or inclement weather. And those are all the comments that we have received at this point.
Okay. Thank you, Kristen. So now I want to just, my committee members, having heard what you've heard from both Jamie and Kristen, and then some of the public responses that we received, if there's any further discussion or concerns that you'd like to, or maybe something that wasn't addressed.
The only thing that
Corey,
I would like to add, the only thing that I'd like to add is that parking is an issue throughout our community. If you just go to the downtown core, almost every business does not have the required amount of parking. That's why a parking lot was built next to the Red Apple. So there's always is and there always will be parking issues. And the only other thing that Jamie indicated was people will walk there. They will take a taxi. I'm sure that the Hub Transit will have an established route pickup there. And also we have multiple agencies that have transportation for their clients that will also be taking them in and out of there. So a lot of these won't be parking in the parking spot. So, and as Jamie indicated, we're here to discuss the minor variance of the parking. The rest will be dealt with in the site plan. So.
Right. Thank you. Anything else, Dawn?
You're on mute, Dawn.
Dawn, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with what Jamie said, that we're here to discuss and agree on the parking issue, and it's just hopefully that the other issues are looked at, and the other thing is that once we get over COVID, for the one business next door, it might be relieved because people they can walk in the restaurant at the time. That's all I got.
Yeah, I'm hoping that as well, Dawn. Just one quick question that I have, or at least what I think I'm seeing here in this site plan, which is difficult to read, but it appears that the car queuing, with the enlargement of the pathway or the entrance and exit, it appears that that's where the cars now will line up. So the queuing out onto the street or onto other property will likely not happen. Parking may still be a concern, but as shared, I don't know that a difference of the 5 spaces is going to be significant enough that we wouldn't want to see this proceed, go ahead. So just a comment, if you will, from myself. Otherwise, I mean, it's nice. I think it's great to see development. I like to see additional restaurants. I like to see additional retail in our community. It means that we're prospering, we're growing, and that's a good thing. So I guess that would be where I would leave my comments. If you gentlemen don't have anything else, I would ask Mr. I believe the owner representative is here with us tonight, Mr. Khalid. Hang on. Let me just find him, Khalid Burbash. If he has any additional comments, or he's heard some of the concerns that we've shared, if you'd like to add anything, sir, now would be a time to do so.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks a lot for your time and for all the concerns you raised. Can I share the site plan just to make it clear so everybody, in terms of the dimensions and some other components, some people have some difficulty to read it. So if I can share it. So in terms of the parking here, we added here, as you see, a central aisle here for the queue. So now we have 15 spots instead of 11. So that means we increased the queue size. And for the problem of if the even if the order, there's a backlog in the order, we have this space here is designated to pull out from the window, so they can wait here until they get their order and then they serve the next one in the queue. So we have also wide entrance, so we don't have any problem with someone who coming for the queue or they're coming for the parking. And we left some space here for loading here, and for those who coming out, they can turn this way and go out. Somebody asked for, I think Kerry asked for this one. This is for the backing up. Somebody backing here to back up, we give them some space, so we don't like have some tight space to back up. And this area, I think there is a potential residential use here for second phase, and the owner wants to build about 30 apartment buildings. So we did the calculation. We need about 28 parking spaces, and with the visitors, this will be the visitor parking. And the reason why we did the visitor parking here this way, so we want to separate the visitors from the residents, so they don't like park by accident in one resident spot. So we keep it like reserved. So I think in terms of the parking, sorry, the traffic problem, I think you raised the point that somebody wants to see a traffic light there. So this traffic light may solve the problem, I guess. And if you want us to do any like study related to that, we are open to do that. We have no problem for that. In terms of the use of those retail spaces here, retail stores, we don't have specific use right now, but we can assure there will be no restaurant in this area, in these ones. So just maybe the idea is to bring some maybe convenience store, maybe a pharmacy there, something that they don't have like heavy traffic on them, just for because they are very small in area. As you can see, the total area is almost 250 square meters. It's not that big area. So I think that's all. If you have any other question I can answer, please do so. But in general, thank you for your time and your support.
Well, thank you, sir, and thank you for sharing this site plan with us, because it does bring some clarity. Especially, I see the bike stands. I see some really attractive features on that site, and it's nice to see that, because you're going to have other vehicles, other types of transport, and the fact that you've considered the concern from our public works department and added that additional queuing area in the access and the drive-in.
Yeah.
So that's perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Corey, Dawn, did you have any further comments for Mr. Burbash?
No, I don't.
No, but I like you said, I like the fact that they have the queuing spot now for people that are putting orders in, and they can, if it's a big order, they can just pull off to the side there and wait for their order. Which, like you said, it was hard to see. I don't know if that was on the original one that we received, the original diagram.
Yes, it was there. Yeah, but I think maybe it was very small print, so that's why maybe it was hard to be seen.
No, that's why I appreciate you going over this with us. It makes a lot more sense now. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Yes, it absolutely does. So without further ado, is there any other comments, Kristen, that we should be take into consideration before we put a motion on the floor?
Yes, Madam Chair. We actually have a member of the public with us in the meeting this evening who I believe would like to make a statement to the committee. Mr. Mickelson, if you're ready.
Yeah, sir, just one, should be ready here. Just stuck in the full screen. I was hoping to get out of that.
Oh, well, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, my apologies. I just had, let's see, I had a written statement of a couple comments I was supposed to, hoping to read, but I had it all set up until you started sharing the screen. It seems like I'm stuck in there, so I apologize. Oh, very good. Thank you.
There we go.
Perfect. Okay. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for letting me become a part of this meeting. I have a few thoughts and comments just about the proposed plan. Some of my comments were already raised, but maybe I'll just go through the full thing. My main concern is traffic congestion just on Fifth Avenue. I was worried about the drive-through and the spaces. I was worried about like after the 9 in the queue that the parking spaces would start to be blocked, but it seems like that's been taken care of. Tim Hortons routinely at their drive-through. I live just across from Tim Hortons, and I see their drive-through often. It's backed onto Fifth Avenue quite routinely, and I've even seen it backed onto Wellington Avenue. So lights there would definitely help. I think my main concern is due to the lack of parking spaces. I'm concerned that vehicles start parking on the nearby residential street to access the retail stores and the restaurants. I think now more than ever, drive-thrus are becoming the preferred method to access the fast food restaurants. So I don't see it being a good idea to reduce the amount of spaces at that time. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mickelson. I appreciate your candor, and I think most of the comments that you shared, we also had shared earlier. I hope you appreciate the fact that there will be a site plan control, and so that our planning staff will be sitting down with the developer of this site and walking through any and all concerns, including the ones that you brought forward this evening. The light standard is not part of that. If there is a set of lights or traffic lights that need to be done, that would be an issue that's dealt with by the municipality as a separate issue. And while COVID, and I'm hoping it is only COVID that is creating this love affair with our vehicles, as badly as it is right now with drive-thrus. Hopefully that will come to an end and people will be outside, out and about using bikes and walking and enjoying our beautiful Northwestern Ontario and attending this restaurant and Timmy's, of course. So having said that, gentlemen on my committee, everybody else should be muted. If there's no other comments or concerns, I will share with you that I do see this as something that's minor in nature. I see that site plan control can take care of many of the issues that we brought up this evening, and our staff will be working with the developer to work through many of these, and he is willing, from what he has shared with us this evening, he is willing to do studies or to do whatever is necessary in order to ensure that, that the development is in keeping and doesn't create any further congestion in the area, certainly not on his site. So having said that, I have no issue in proceeding with allowing him this reduction in queuing spaces, nor the additional 6 parking spaces. Corey, Don, what are your thoughts?
I agree with what you're saying, and the site plan was brought up on the so you could see it a little bit better, and yeah, no, I agree. I'm going to agree to it. That's good for me. Yeah.
Good. Thanks, Don. Corey, is there anything that you have to share before we put a motion on the floor?
I think the only thing else would be if there continues to be traffic spilling out onto the street, that you may want to look at making that a one-way and then looping it around to the other exit, making it just one way and not having two-way traffic there. But that could be, that'll have to be brought up to council at some point. But hopefully things settle down when COVID settles down and everyone can park where they need to park, and The reduction to me of the 6 spots is minor in nature, so I don't have an issue with them going forward.
Yeah, my understanding from the individual I spoke to today on site when I was taking a look at the survey stakes was that many of the community members or the community neighborhood folks that see that queue, they go around, they go up the hill and around already. So they kind of take a look and decide, oh, that's not going to work for me today. I'm going to go around and make it easier for myself and faster. So hopefully you're right, Corey, that doesn't continue to happen. If it does, then something has to be done to address it. But having said that, that's not what's on the table here before us tonight. That's not our issue. So I need a mover and a seconder because I believe we're going to move forward with approving.
I'll move. Don will move.
Okay.
Corey
Thank you,
seconds.
Donald. Okay, so then I have the Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux Lookout, Committee of Adjustment, moved by Donald Fenelon, seconded by Corey Lego, that the minor variance application M05-2021 Can Connect Developments on behalf of 2760516 Ontario Inc., being an applicant for a minor variance to permit a reduction of 6 parking spaces from 32 to 26, and to permit a reduction of 2 queuing spaces from 11 to 9, be approved with the following conditions. Hang on. I don't have any conditions in this. Kristen, am I missing something here? There's no conditions here.
No, Madam
There
Chair,
should be.
there were no conditions attached.
Oh, okay, okay, good. I'm looking because it said with the following conditions. All right,
My
so
mistake,
that's okay. Let's remove that. Just be approved, and I'll just put a line through it, Sylvie. So just a line through it, and I'll initial it, and you can get the other committee members to do so as well.
Sounds
Okay.
good, thank you.
So, okay, so all those in favor?
Yes.
Good.
Good. Perfect, and that is carried. So, Mr. Burbash, I think it is, you can just follow up and see Sylvie, and she will give you a copy of all the documentation that you need in order to proceed with the proposed development, and just want to wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors.
Okay,
sir.
thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
bye now.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Okay, so I guess we only have one other thing under old business. We had, I believe it's the February 16th minutes were distributed, and one of the applicants, Noel Roberts, came back and clarified that the garage and house were constructed in 1979 and 1988 respectively. I don't think that we need to go back and change those minutes, simply because it is not having any causal effect to the decision that was made with respect to that, that application. However, I think we should include it here in these minutes and reference the February 16th minutes, just as a note under old business. That we received this clarification, and we appreciate the applicant providing that. But because it doesn't have any, let's not try to amend minutes that have already been passed. Is that suitable, gentlemen?
For
Yes.
me,
Okay, perfect. So, Kristen, that's what we're going to do. So rather than putting here a correction, as you've stated, let's call it a clarification. Picky, word picky. So just change that. It acknowledges a clarification to the February 16th meetings, and then clarify to state that the house was constructed prior to, because it really has no causal effect on the decision that was made. Do we have any new business?
At this point in time, Madam Chair, we do not have any new business.
Wow. We've been kind of busy these last couple of months. I'm surprised to see we have no business. Okay. So then we only have one more motion that I have on the floor for adjournment, if there's nothing else.
Oh, I just wanted to thank Tyrell and the other neighbors for coming out and sending in the responses, and as well as Tim Hortons. It is appreciated that the public is involved. So
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. Corey.
Absolutely. And yeah, and Corey, please, yourself and Donald as council members, of course, I'm not, I'm just a volunteer, but as council members, that is something that I think you guys need to keep in mind, is the traffic and the congestion and that intersection, because it's been brought up by several members of the public, including somebody I spoke to as well today. So maybe taking that forward, something you keep an eye on, and maybe there needs to be action on that at some point here in the near future.
I would
Okay.
like that the people that live around that area, that if they see stuff, that they make staff aware, so they know, because staff would be the ones that bring it forward to council.
Okay. Thank you, Corey. So I need a mover and a seconder.
Corey moves.
Okay, Corey, Don seconds.
Okay, so we have before the Committee of Adjustment, moved by Corey Lego and seconded by Donald Penland, that the Committee of Adjustment meeting of April 20th, 2021 is adjourned at 5:59. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yep,
And that's carried.
Until next time.
yep.
Until next time. Thanks so much, everybody, for all the good hard
Thank
work.
you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, bye now.
Appreciate
Bye.
it.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.